Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the No Silicast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com. Technology Geek podcast with an ever so slight Apple bias. Today is Wednesday, March 25th, 2026, and this is show number 1090. Well, my leg is getting better every single day, and I'm really looking forward to being able to walk on it starting next week. I'll still be with a walker for stability for 8 long weeks, but at least I'll be able to walk. Since you're getting the show early, that's your big hint that there will be no live show on Sunday, March 29th. Steve and I are off on a short weekend trip to celebrate his dad's 91st birthday. It's going to be pretty amazing because all 28 of his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren will be there. He's really looking forward to it, and so are we. We've got a great show this week, again, thanks to many great contributors, including Steve and Eddie Tonkoi. Bart was good enough to do an early security bits with me too, so we've got that to look forward to. At the Sheridan household, we have Levoit air purifiers in our home, and we've even bought one for Steve's mother because she was moved to an area where the air quality is really poor, and it completely solved her problem. She's in much, much better shape than she was before. And so we ran over to the V-Sync booth where Jeannie Horner represents the company Levoit, and we're going to look at some other things that you make, right?
Absolutely, yes. Thanks for stopping by. So you're familiar with our air purifiers. This is our 300 SP, so smart air purifier. This is our Vital 200 SP. So this is if like a larger room, or especially designed for pets and pet hair and dander.
Okay, so the 300 is the one I think we have.
Okay.
And this is describing for the audio audience as well. It's a large cylinder, maybe 2 feet high, 1.5 feet high.
I would say it kind of looks like a protein powder container, right?
A lot of protein, right?
Right.
And then the 200 is a bigger unit, but it's a smaller number. That's kind of confusing, but it sort of looks like a small air conditioner.
Right. And it flushes because it's where it can flush against a wall, if that's concerns for people.
They're very pretty. They're white. They're classy looking.
They blend in well, I feel like, into various environments. And since you're familiar with these, I'll tell you a little bit about our vacuum cleaners.
Oh, yeah.
So here we have the LVAC 200. This is our first vacuum. And then this one sells for $199. It's a very high-performing vacuum. This was in such high demand, we developed the LVAC 300, which sells for $350. This is more powerful for people, especially that have pets at home and need more power. And this has 5-stage HEPA filtration to keep
so you've taken the technology from your air purifiers into the line of vacuums.
Precisely.
Ah, I see where you're going.
Exactly. And I'll take that a step further. This is our newest vacuum. This is the Aero. And it also has 5-stage HEPA filtration. It has a triple strike technology, so you're never going to get hair tangled in here. The auto untangles. And the coolest part that I think is it docks and it empties into a dust bag inside of here that's fully sealed. So, other vacuums you open, dust cloud, allergens.
I cannot tell you how many times I have dumped part of the bag onto my shoes.
You're like, I just cleaned up a mess. Thank you for another mess, right?
So I want to describe these a little bit, too, for the audio audience. So the LVAC 200 is a tiny, thin cylinder, not a very big chamber there.
No.
I might be able to do one of my cat hair rooms with that.
Cats you have, probably.
Right, 2. And then the LVAC 300, what was better about that one than the 200?
This one's a little bit more powerful for people that have more things that they need to pick up or higher pile carpet, etc.
Yeah, it looks like it's really light.
It is very light. And I personally like the low profiles of these. I live in a pretty small cottage. And so to be able to put it into a cleaning closet is helpful for me.
Yeah,
I don't have a lot of space. And then our newest debut with the Aero. So we have with this, it's called Hyperpulse technology. When you dock it and it empties, in an airplane bathroom, the negative pressure sucks everything down.
Yeah.
So ours does the same thing. Do you want me to turn it on?
Yeah, but I want to look at I'm confused at what I'm looking at. We've got a big chamber, but that's not the vacuum because it's sitting in the dock.
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
Oh, she's showing us the bag inside. Okay.
Bag. So this is fully sealed up here for when it empties into it. You're not going to have any allergens, dander, dust, pollen, all that stuff.
Defeating the purpose, right?
If we're going to put time into cleaning, let's make it really clean, in my opinion, because I have better things to do than vacuum 3 times a day.
Right. All right, let's turn it on. I've got the mic up here ready for it to... I want to hear the toilet suck here.
You get my butt. Where's my butt? So it's self-cleaning and everything's going into that bag. And that bag lasts people easily up to 60, 90 days, so you don't have to change it very much.
Really?
Yeah.
I would think that would depend on the pets again.
It does, but I have some media folks who have tested it, and they were like, we're a heavy pet household. And he's like, I just need a bag after 6 months, he said.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can we see the other side of this?
Absolutely. Why don't I take it off for you?
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Oh, so the vacuum is still quite small. Yep. Oh, yeah. That is really tiny.
So, right.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Can I vacuum with it?
You certainly can.
All right. Well, I mean, I'll get to work here. How do you do the classic step on it?
Oh, this one you're going to want to release down.
So there's a lever button to flop it down so that I don't.
This should be
a button. There we go.
Yeah.
I knew it was with the foot.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
It's also like an instinct that I don't think we can ever get rid of.
Right. Exactly. Hold it on.
Yeah.
Power button.
Yep. Power.
Power should do something. Do I need to press one of these buttons? No. I'm not smart enough to run the vacuum. Oh, I just wasn't pressing hard enough. Okay. All right. Well, let me clean the floor here. I'm doing a good. Oh, that's doing a good job. Let me keep. This is fun. It's got a nice swivel head on it. I'm vacuuming the floor. Steve loves a little B-roll where I can do some cleanup here. Here we go. All right. I'm cleaning up. This is great. Do you want me to clean some more here? Got one of the workers. Yeah, I could get a job here. Yeah, try it. Okay, so he wants to try it too. We're going to let everybody play with it. It's pretty nice. All right, we've got other people trying it.
How much?
This one's $4.99.
$4.99?
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Well, Jeannie, this is fantastic. I'm really interested in all of this. And where would people best go to find out more about the Levoit vacuums and air purifiers?
Certainly. So there's Levoit.com, and then we're also on Amazon.
There you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that vacuum was really, really cool, but I was laughing so hard when those guys just come up and go, hey, can we try it too? It was pretty fun to see everybody getting to play.
Hi, this is Eddie Tonkoi, the in-house nerd for everything behind the scenes on my wife Jern's character-driven queer love stories, including audiobook narration and production. This is the second part of my Audiobook Audio version 3 series, and today I want to cover my minimal audiobook recording chain, and where I refuse to wing it. It's not so long ago I recorded a segment describing my older process, one that was ingenious, thought through, bulletproof, and, it turns out, flawed. It's not that the old process was bad, it's just that it turned out to be less efficient than I'd thought. And it also turned out I was looking at things backwards. In the past, I recorded my audio, did some processing, edited it, then continued the processing. I had bought Isotope RX11 and it performs near miracles on poor audio to make it useful. And the problem with that? It meant I'd accept poor audio and then try to fix it. But having lived through and discarded a lengthy editing process, I now realize that repairing poor audio doesn't give as good a result as polishing good audio. Who'd have thought? So how did I get here? Well, I was tidying up my audio, removing mouth clicks, those smacking sounds your mouth can make when it opens and closes, and after a while I noticed something odd. Some of my consonants were disappearing as well. I dialed back the strength of the tool and managed to get to a position that removed some clicks and no consonants. Happy? I moved on. Then I noticed something else odd. I was removing breath noise, and some of my consonants were disappearing. Again, I dialed back the settings, tweaking them this way and that, but no matter what I did, I couldn't save the consonants whilst removing the breath noise. In fact, the tool was identifying and cleaning my consonants before even touching the breath. And that's what made me stop, pause, and reflect. That's when I realized I had this all wrong. And that's when I decided to make this series, to push myself to understand properly what I'm doing. So, where am I? Well, I've spent several hours learning, testing, and learning some more. I do like learning. After that time, I'm now in a place where I believe, from a position of understanding, these 3 things. Number 1, audio should be recorded as close to the desired output as possible. Number 2, Editing should be done on that high-quality audio. And number 3, processing should be kept to a minimum, ideally only loudness being adjusted to meet specifications. That means, ideally, no RX11 declick, voice denoise, mouth declick, DS, or even EQ, though that's probably going a bit too far. In practice, I'm not quite there, but I'm surprisingly close. Only a gentle bit of denoising and mouth declick early on, and a subtle EQ adjustment before loudness control. So let's look at a little bit more detail on the chain. It all now starts with me trying to get the best possible audio I can out of the microphone, which really means getting as close to the final product as I can. I'll go into that properly in the next couple of segments, because this turns out to be the real lever. For now, all that's relevant is that I record using Audio Hijack, which is simply a rock-solid app, and that saves an uncompressed 32-bit, 44.1 kHz audio file. Oh, and I do have one confession. Going against best practice, as if that's a solid thing, I put trust in my microphone, the Shure MV7 Plus, and I enable its internal denoise functionality. Nothing else, but it does mean the audio I record is technically called dry, not raw, because it has been processed. However, I have really tested this, and I cannot find any problems with its denoising, no artifacts in the audio, and it reduces background noise. Purists would say I should turn it off and use RX11 instead, so that I hold on to a true raw file. But in blind tests, the MV7 Plus has seemed to do a better job than RX11. I'm keeping it on. At this point, I run a gentle mouth declick using RX11, though I keep the original file as well in case I notice something I want to recover. That hasn't happened yet. I actually do this as a plug-in to Audio Hijack as it records, so it doesn't cost me any time. I then import the file into Logic Pro, with each chapter being a separate track. Logic has a great function that removes silences, so I choose something quite conservative to get rid of the long pauses I sometimes have when a train goes past, or when I stop to read ahead. The settings I use look for places where the volume stays below -40 dB for at least 1.8 seconds, and then it trims that near silence to just 1.8 seconds long. It doesn't do much, but it saves me some time. Now we're on to the editing stage, which is lengthy. I listen through on the computer with my good headphones and do just a few things, ideally. Firstly, I remove fluffs, where I said a line incorrectly, paused and repeated it. Then I shorten gaps between sentences or paragraphs, which could be due to me pausing to breathe or read ahead. Many of these will be that 1.8 seconds long now, which is always too long. Thirdly, I adjust gaps between words and sentences. Now, especially as it's me speaking, I know the cadence of the text, and so I know when the next word is meant to land. If it noticeably misfires, I go in and make tiny edits to move the word forward or backwards. It's almost always forwards. Fourthly, I reduce the volume of objectionable breathing or knocks. I do this in Logic by reducing the gain around the noise, aiming to make it less objectionable, but not aiming to remove it. Humans do breathe, after all. I then bounce the audio, which means I export it, giving me a rendered version of the edited track. I adjust the loudness using RX11 to bring it to audiobook specifications. Then I listen through on my iPhone, making note of anything that needs adjusting so I can go back into Logic to fix it. Once all that is done, it's just a question of deciding if the EQ is correct, or if I want to reduce the bass a little, or suppress a particular frequency. 500 Hz and 5000 Hz can be a bit boomy for my voice. And where does this now leave me? Well, this audio chain leaves me with a minimal number of tools. I know it sounded quite long, but I've tried to make it minimal. I've stripped out de-essing and breath control, and switched to a light touch with other passes so that I can just run them and not worry about losing things. They are simply not aggressive enough to cause problems, which also means they're not aggressive enough to do much fixing. But here's the point. What that chain really does is remove excuses. It shifts my time from repairing damage to enhancing something that's already good. The goal is simple: capture close to the target and do as little as possible afterwards. And what that means is that if I'm not going to repair tone later, then tone has to be right at capture. And if tone has to be right at capture, then the biggest part of the processing isn't a plugin at all. It's microphone technique. And that is the subject for the next couple of segments: how I made mic position boring, repeatable, and reliable enough that I could stop guessing. If you want to know more, come and ask me over in the Slack community at podfeet.com/Slack, where I and all the other lovely No Silicastaways enjoy friendly, positive online conversations. Feel free to message me, Eddie Tonkoi, if you have any thoughts, questions, or techniques you're using. It would be nice to share ideas. You can also find our work at JrTonkoi.com, that's JrTonkoi.com, where you'll find JrT's character-driven queer love stories, the audiobooks I produce for them, and bonus material for our subscribers. I'll be back soon to talk through some more of my workflow, but for now, happy recording and happy reading.
Well, I, for one, definitely do want to know more. I don't do pretty much any audio processing, very, very little while I'm recording, that's for sure. And I don't seem to have much trouble with the No Silicast and other shows that I do on the podcast, but I have a lot of problems with mouth clicking sounds in my Screencast Online videos. I've been working with JF Brissett, my editor, to try to figure out what the root cause is. We have no idea. Basically, every single sentence I end has a little click at the end, and I can't figure out what's causing it. So I'm real curious to learn what you're going to teach us more about getting it right in the first place. So let's say you've got a kid, and they're getting to that age where maybe you kind of feel like you should get them a cell phone because you want to be able to talk to them, but you don't want them really having a cell phone. The people you need to talk to are Cosmo, so I'm here with Marissa Lapointe from Cosmo. Tell us about your product here.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is our JrTrack 5. This is our 5th iteration of the smartwatch. This launched actually in July. And what we're debuting here is our Explorer clip. So really what Cosmo is designed to do is to really fill that gap for when you want your kid to have more independence, but you don't want them to have a smartphone yet. But as a parent, you're looking for peace of mind. You want to send them to the park. You want to put them on the bus, but you want to know that they're safe. So this is the JrTrack 5. And so it's got GPS tracking. Yeah, I can show you kind of two here. So we have the watch itself with the band, and then we have the same watch, is the same exact face with our Explorer clip. So, you know, across the country, a lot of schools have moved to ban smartphones, but they've also moved to ban smartwatches. So they don't want their kid having something on their wrist because they find it distracting.
Right.
With Cosmo, we have focus mode. So you can set schedules for school, for homework, whatever it is, to limit all like distracting features while keeping essential communication available.
So you can call them if you're going to be late to pick them up.
Totally.
But they can't play a game or what a message.
Exactly. And, you know, if they need like 911 calling, you can still keep that open. You can still have the tracking available. But they're not going to be able to pull up Spotify. So so here we have the clip. So this can clip onto a back.
Basic carabiner.
Yeah, basic carabiner. It's also got a clip here if you want to put it on a belt. But you can also put it on a backpack or you can put it on a belt loop. And it kind of, you know, it solves that need to, you know, adhere to those school policies while also being like, I want to send my kid to school, know they're safe. Like you said, I'm late to pick up. I need to be able to reach them. I can. Or say they want to go home with a friend after school. They can reach you and ask if that's okay.
So what kind of apps are on Cosmo?
Yeah. So they have a couple different apps. And what's really great is that everything can be tailored to your child's needs and readiness through the Cosmo Parent app. So it's really designed to grow with the child. So say your kid is starting to read, you know, you can download the Week Junior app. So this was a partnership that we launched in May. So the Week Junior offers kid-friendly news, debates, polls, things like that. And then we also have Spotify Kids. We've got Go Noodle, which is like an activity app. But there's many apps in the app library.
You would control this with your own phone? You would set this up with an app?
So in the so parents will download the Cosmo app onto their phone, and then through there, You link up your kid's watch, you link it to the app, and then yes, you can control all that. You can also control who they call and who they text.
Nice.
So they're only able to text people that you say that they can, essentially.
So I assume that that'll work with an Android or an iPhone?
Yes, absolutely. Android or
As the
iPhone.
adult. Okay.
Yes.
And now you got to buy a cellular plan, I imagine. How does that work?
Yeah, so through Cosmo's website, you can buy a data plan. So data plans differ. Pricing differs if you want to go month to month, if you want to go 6 months, a year, 2 years. But it's a fairly affordable price. So you purchase that separate from the watch.
So that's like an MVNO on top of AT&T or Verizon or one of those, or T-Mobile or...
So Cosmo has its own data plan. So it's not through Verizon or AT&T. So yes, it's on top of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And how much does Cosmo cost?
Yeah, so the smartwatch costs $149.99, and then this little watch clip here, this is $14.99.
Oh, okay. So you buy the watch, but you buy the Explorer clip as just a way to attach it.
Totally, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, and it's on Amazon, Cosmo's website, and then Target online. Cosmo also offers a lot of great deals on the website. So, whether it's back to school or the holidays, there's usually a pretty good deal you can get.
Oh, there you go. And the Cosmos website is
It's cosmotogether.com.
cosmotogether.com. Very good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
You know who's really cool? John Murray III. That's who. John has been a patron of the Podfeet podcast for 6 years now. This week he did something extraordinary. He doubled his pledge. And he wrote me a lovely email asking about my health and progress after my fall. Now, don't get me wrong, the financial support is awesome, and I'm floored that he's making such a generous donation, but I love the kind letter just a little bit more. If you'd like to be a supporter of the Podfeet podcast, I would love it if you too would go to podfeet.com/Patreon and pledge your support. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for Security Bits with Bart Bouchatz. We accelerated it today earlier than Saturday. So if anything breaks between Tuesday and Saturday, sorry about that. We'll catch it next time.
Or just patch it. If it pops up and says, hey, I'd like to be patched. Yeah, go on. Yeah. Don't know why. Bart will tell me. Go on.
Exactly. Well, thanks for doing this early so that I can go off for the weekend and we can get the show out early so everybody knows not to show up for the live show on Sunday.
Excellent. And enjoy your little family trip. Fingers crossed.
Thank you.
Right. We have some follow-up on stuff we've talked about before, which is kind of long enough that if I weren't rushing the notes, I might have moved it down to be a deep dive. But hey, let's just do it here. So it has been known but not known, or known but not acknowledged, or, that strange, we can neither confirm nor deny sort of a situation where everyone kind of knows it's happening, but no one's quite saying it out loud.
Yeah.
A technique for avoiding the Fourth Amendment, which protects from unreasonable search and seizure, is not to do the searching and the seizing yourself, but to outsource to the private sector, who happen to have a thriving business built around surveillance capitalism, or gathering data on everyone and selling it. Why not just buy it? Just corporate transaction. New staples, new stationery, and some new data. Well, it's not unofficial anymore. Kash Patel very kindly answered a straight question with a straight answer. So yeah, of course we're buying it. What do you think? Oh, okay. I don't know if that's less bad. I kind of prefer it to be known, because maybe now people will care about data brokers. Because this is only possible because that whole industry exists, and that industry loves to hide. And this is the opposite of hiding.
For anybody who's trying to avoid knowing things about U.S. politics, Kash Patel is the director of the FBI.
Yes. So I noticed something on the No Silicast Slack, and it was kind of a comment in passing, and I didn't have time to go into detail, and I knew I'd be recording a show. So I saw this story in the No Silicast Slack at podfeet.com/Slack, and someone posted, and this is why I have a VPN. It's like, well, there's no harm in having a VPN, but that knee bone is not connected to this hip bone. Oh, sorry about that. I don't know why that was on my mind.
Too soon, Bart. Too
Of
soon.
all the analogies, yeah. Sorry, that's association there. We don't go off script. So VPNs solve problems, and they're important, and VPNs are great, and don't get rid of your VPN. But also be aware that turning on a VPN does not protect you from data brokers. You can do things, and I will give you some advice in a moment, but you need to be aware that these data brokers are not getting it by spying on your IP address or by spying on the URLs you're visiting by being an attacker in the middle like your ISP, which is what a VPN protects from. These things are way more insidious. So this data is acquired by the data brokers through lots of mechanisms, of which I know for a fact that includes ad networks, which I have spelt in the show notes with an extra D. They are advertisements, not networks that add things together. So all of the ad networks are tracking everyone, building up profiles, and they take whatever they can. And sometimes that will include your location and sometimes it won't. But even if it doesn't, it starts to get enough identifiers where another app that only knows your email address and does have your location can then be combined with the stuff from the ad network to connect it to you. So it's all part of the same ecosystem, right? That's how all this works. The other big source for these data brokers is free apps. Apps plastered in advertisements, games for kids full of advertisements. Those apps are making money by having ads. Those ads are the ad industry. Those ads are tracking you. That is what they are for. There are also apps that are free and have no obvious business model, but no visible ads. And they're a bit more nefarious because they're just selling your data without showing you ads. You can spot them in the App Store on iOS because their nutrition label for privacy will not be clean. Which is why those nutrition labels from Apple are so valuable. They show you what the app is doing under the hood. It doesn't matter whether it's in the UI, what's it doing under the hood.
I may put this as one of our new Ask Bart questions section for security bits, but I think I'm going to ask you, can you walk us through which ones raise the red flag to you? Because there's often things in there in the nutrition label, but maybe a walkthrough of which ones make you go, no. And which ones you go, yeah, fine.
Okay, in that case, I have some homework for the listeners. Can people just grab a selection? Because I don't have a database of all possible nutrition labels. So if people want to send me some labels and we can put together a little collection and then we can group them into yeah and ugh, or some other category.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so
that's a great idea. Okay, you guys heard it here.
Yeah. Yeah, if I have work to do, so do you.
And maybe I'll start a thread in security bits for those to be collected.
Yeah.
In the security bits channel in Slack.
Perfect. Another example is double dipping, right? You have these stores, these Temu-like stores that sell you real things for not $0. But the dollar price and what you're getting don't quite line up. So how are they making the extra money? They're tracking you, of course. So that, beware of those kind of sites. And there's a hardware equivalent. Smart TVs are terrible for this. They sell you an amazing 52-inch television for surprisingly little money. And yet they're a profitable corporation. What's filling in the gap? Your privacy is filling in the gap.
I think the only honest one of those, I forget who made it, but there's one where it says, we're gonna track you. So you get this TV. I want to say it was actually free, wasn't it? Or like $100 or something.
It was like spectacularly cheap. And they literally told you are buying this with your privacy. We have a camera. It is watching you watch the television. And we are selling your engagement.
And if you do this to stop it, we're going to come take the TV back. If you do this to stop it, we'll take the TV. So you had to keep it going. That was an honest transaction and really highlighted what's actually going on here.
Yeah, you and I both complimented it for its wonderful, refreshing honesty when that launched. And the one that I shouldn't need to say, if you're pirating software, or if you're getting software for pirating content, you are just being monetized every which way. Maybe it's malware, maybe it's tracking, it's probably yes and. You're probably just completely and utterly your privacy, your security, you've just thrown it all away. Do not pirate stuff. That is the dirty underbelly of the internet. Stay away. You wouldn't go down an alleyway. Don't do it on the online.
Or thank you for doing that to pay for the internet for the rest of us. If you go in with your eyes wide open, right?
Right. So with all of that, this is how the bad stuff happens. What can you do if you'd prefer to actually have most of your privacy? You can never protect all of your privacy, right? That doesn't even make sense because privacy isn't binary. Like you choose to tell people who you are in exchange for things. So it's not a case that you have all your privacy or none of your privacy. So how do you strike a balance more in favor of retaining more of it? So I have been proactively avoiding anything that is ad supported wherever I can. So if I have the choice of an app that says, if you give us $10 for life, we'll not show you ads, they will get my $10. If there's a pro version of the app for $2 a month and there's a free version with ads, I'll pay the $2 a month. I'll pay with my credit card, not with my privacy. And I am now at a stage in life where that is a decision I can make without having to give up having nice apps. I can have very nice apps and not have ads. And there are certain class of apps that are particularly dangerous. Weather apps are absolute tracking nightmare for the very simple reason that you will give them location access.
Oh.
They need it, right? So I pay a lot of money for my weather apps. I pay $50 a year to a German company for their pro level apps. And that gives me a nice suite of weather apps. I think we recorded a chit chat about my choices of weather apps, but they're all companies that have perfect nutrition labels because you pay with your euros in my case, dollars in your case, not with your privacy. And the bonus extra is that the data sources for the weather are usually better. Like Meteo.gmbh is a massive German meteorological group that have really good data. And for me in Europe, they have amazing models. They have super computers. They do really good weather forecasting. And so I get to pick who the data is, or I even get to combine it and see how they differ, which is really fun. So AccuWeather says, bring your umbrella, and GmbH says, no. Anyway, the other one to be careful of is your email. We keep saying it's the crown jewels. And so the pure content of your email tells everyone a lot about you, enough to probably fish the heck out of you. But also, if they can read your email, they can get your codes and stuff. So be very, very, very careful about who gets into your email. And this is why I would say it's actually worth paying Apple the $5 a month for iCloud Plus to have them be your mail host like you do. Or if you also have need of other tools, something like Office 365, or if you'd prefer something a little bit more budget conscious, Proton is a great offer.
How do they protect my crown jewels?
Well, your email is sitting with a company who monetize by you paying them $5 a month. They don't monetize by scanning your email and selling details about you.
Okay, so you're talking about custom domains.
Doesn't have to be. You can go to Proton and be an @proton.me. The point is, the person, the company who has your inbox should be someone you have a commercial relationship with, not someone who monetizes you with tracking you.
So you mean like you'd pick Google then?
You're right. Yeah, the company who's managed to corporatize surveillance better than anyone else on planet Earth. Meta. Yeah, one of those two.
Tough call.
Yeah, tough call.
I shouldn't do that when you're drinking coffee. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's dangerous for my monitor. Search engines are the other one. This is why I have been recommending Kagi forever. And AI chatbots are the new one because everyone wants AI and no one wants to pay for AI. And that's a terrible mix. So this is why I'm really happy to pay Lumo or to use the Microsoft Copilot suite, even though I have started to hit the edge of my free tier on GitHub Copilot. That's happened a few times now. I should do less show notes. That's what I should do. And just in case, there was another story that I wasn't sure if I wanted to pop it into the show notes or not, but if you're on the fence about spending money for a paid search engine, Google have decided that even the titles of the links can be hallucinations now. They are using AI to rewrite the titles, and they often invert the meaning by accident because it's an LLM.
So is this in Gemini, or are you talking about in Google search when you see the garbage at the top that you scroll past to try to get to the real links?
So when you scroll past the Gemini garbage, Gemini is now
well, that's not real Gemini, by the way, is what I've been told, I've been understood, is that Gemini is much better than what you see just as part of Google search.
But
anyway,
that they're using a smaller context window or something. It's all the same. Yeah. It's all the same technology. Just be cheaper subset of it. Fewer compute resources. No. So underneath that glop, all of the links are now being shortened. If their titles are longer than a certain amount of characters, Google are, in their typical A/B testing way, some people see this, some people don't. They are shortening long titles of pages using the Gemini of a flavor. And sometimes, as has been observed by The Verge, they invert the meaning of headlines. They're doing this to news. Bloody news.
So the author of the article writes a sensible title that says what they mean, and then their editor changes it to be clickbait, and then Google changes it to be something completely different.
By the end of that game of Chinese whispers, you don't know anything, but you think you're very well informed. Yeah. So that's where we are. They're the things you can do to protect yourself. And mostly it's about avoiding a free lunch, because it isn't a free lunch. It's a you're paying by being tracked lunch. So just avoid.
Cool.
Now, another story, I have a happy news follow-up. So you flagged a few months ago a story by Brian Krebs that you were rightly concerned about because it was the first time we as a show discussed the concept of these residential proxies, where either through malware or through overly cheap hardware, you end up with a piece of software installed on a device in your network that is selling access to your IP address to cybercriminals to route their malicious traffic through innocent-looking residential IP addresses. And the botnet in question was called Kimwolf. And we talked about it a lot. Well, there's been a development because international law enforcement were paying attention to Brian Krebs. They often do. He does a lot of excellent investigation. So the American authorities, the German authorities, and the Canadian authorities got together and shut the thing down. Now, it doesn't mean the class of problem is gone, but that particular spectacularly large botnet is gone. So they have set the cyber criminals back substantially. And they will, the cat and mouse game will continue. But the cat has done well. The cat has done very well.
That's excellent. Good to hear.
Yeah. Another note, just to mention this whole concept of crown jewels, right? So when we talk about email as the crown jewels, we're thinking about No Silicastaways. But there's actually a second way in which that's true. So a lot of No Silicastaways will have a work hat to wear as well as a personal hat. They may work for an organization. I mean, I know there's people in the community who work for very small organizations where they might be the only IT person. And the story in the show notes that reminded me to remind everyone that the crown jewels work everywhere is that Nordstrom, who are not a small company, they are not a mom and pop store, they are quite substantial. They have a corporate email infrastructure which can send email that really is from Nordstrom, and it will pass all validation and go through all spam filtering and be actually from Nordstrom. But if they lose control of those crown jewels, someone else can speak with their voice. On St. Patrick's Day, that's exactly what happened. Some cyber criminals got into Nordstrom's actual email infrastructure and sent out St. Patrick's Day themed crypto scams.
Oh my gosh.
So whatever organization you work for, just remember that if you have some sort of programmatic mechanism for sending emails, like an invoicing system or whatever, just remember to keep that secure in the same way you remember to keep your inbox secure. The ability to send email as you for any organization that has an identity is also crown jewels. Maybe they're like the lesser crown jewel, the little silly scepter that goes with the big fancy crown, but they're still crown jewels. And I don't think we've ever talked about that aspect of email on the show.
I'm really glad I'm not responsible for someone else's email.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I can't say that. I really, really, really can't say that.
Right.
Okay. Now, we do have a deep dive, even though I think particularly the first of those stories could have been one too. So Google have made some news. They have announced the future release of something called Advanced Flow. And this is their new way of striking a reasonable compromise between having an open platform where anyone can write an Android app, whether or not they are part of the Play Store, whether or not they have proven their identity to Google. Anyone can write an Android app and you can sideload them. And that is a way in which Google have chosen to compete with Apple, who have the walled garden. It's very pretty in here, but in here thou shalt stay. And the trade-offs, right? And different human beings have different preferences, and that is a feature, I think. But of course, the more regular human beings who use Android phones, which is now a lot, the more this openness becomes a liability. And so Google can't leave things open. But they also don't want to kill their ecosystem. So they need to strike a balance between making it possible for the technically capable people to sideload and making it difficult enough for regular folk that a scammer can't trick you into doing it. Because that is now a massive method of scams. They send you an app claiming it to be something or other. It is, of course, an imitation, and it will steal your banking money by sitting on your phone till you go to your bank and then redirecting your funds or whatever. Like, it will defraud you in some horrible way, empty your crypto wallet, whatever. And so you need to stop people accidentally or being tricked into sideloading, but still allow actual nerds to actually nerd. And so they have an answer
now, but okay.
Oh, you can verb anything, including verbing. Okay. So what they're going to do is that any app that is not digitally signed by a registered developer will not install without enabling Advanced Flow. So Advanced Flow is what they're calling the extra hoops. And what's going to happen is you're going to be told some very blunt warning messages. This could be a scam. Scammers like to do this. You are taking a risk. Do you understand that? Are you sure you're not being scammed? And do you understand the risks? Yes. And then you start a 24-hour cooling off period where you cannot complete the process until a day has passed. So if you're being scammed, that's a big roadblock where many, many members of your family and friends can step in and go, are you sure you want to wire $200,000 through this weird app to invest in a cryptocurrency no one's heard of?
So if it's not been activated, how would your friends and family know?
Well, you're now stuck, right? So you're in the middle of being scammed, right? This is going to be part of an ongoing scam, be it over the phone or whatever, right? We've heard stories on the show about people being scammed by phone calls and stuff, and they were on their way to the bank. But the more time it takes you to do what the scammer has tricked you into doing, the more opportunities there are for you to say something to a friend or a family and to be interrupted, or for you to think twice about it.
I understand that, but I thought we were talking about I've sideloaded an app. I've gotten this big warning that tells me, woo, awooga, awooga, you sure you really want to do this?
Yeah.
Now, I thought I understood it was a waiting period, but during that waiting period, I'm not in the middle of being scammed, so my friends and family wouldn't know that was happening to tell me to stop.
But no, I would say you are. I'm sorry, you're not installing the app out of the blue. The app is part of a scam that is now on pause, which means there is more time for you to talk about what you are doing.
Okay, so the squishy organic bit is still happening on the outside, but you've installed this app, and in that length of time, somebody can tell you.
Yeah. No damage is being done technologically, so there is more chance for life to to stop you before you then 24 hours later finally approve the advanced flow. At which point you actually get two options, which is temporarily allow side loading. So maybe it's a one-off app you're testing for an open source project. Or, if you're a nerd, permanently allow advanced flow. And now your phone, having really proved it, is now a nerdy old open Android phone, and you are free to nerd to your heart's content.
Okay.
Reasonable, I think. You know,
Yeah.
it's a balance there. Another very important subtlety here is this is not about whether or not the app is in the Google Play Store. It's about whether or not the app is digitally signed by a registered developer. Now, every app in the App Store is digitally signed by a registered developer. That wasn't true a year ago. That is true today. I know this the hard way because Maynooth University has an app. And oh boy, did we have to prove our identity to Google.
Oh, good.
I did sort of feel that while being really frustrated.
Yeah.
So, you know the way on the Mac, you can download an app from any random website, and if you double click it, it might still run because it's been digitally signed by a registered developer, or as Apple call it, it's been notarized. The
Right.
how the app got to you and whether or not it's notarized are not connected.
Right.
That is the same on Android. So you can sideload a fully signed app from a verified developer, and this advanced flow won't stop you because it's not a random app by a random stranger. It's a specific app by that known person.
That's the right answer. I do like that. By the way, I recently found out about an open source app that looked like it was really cool, and I went to the website and I downloaded it or homebrewed it. I forget how I did it. And when I double clicked it, Apple just said, "Yeah, no, dog, you're not running that." And I was like, "What do you mean? What do you mean I'm not running that? Why? What's going on here?" And this specific message was unfamiliar. I've never been told just absolutely no. You know, usually it's like shows up in system settings and you can approve it and all kinds of weird things. But I couldn't do it. And then I went to the GitHub repo for the app, and it said, "Oh yeah, so it's not signed." And and I just wrote a comment. I said, "That's really unfortunate because I'm not going to install it then. So just, I'll drop a comment here, and that way hopefully I'll get a message when you do sign it because not gonna."
Yeah. And so this is one of the reasons that there is this kerfuffle around advanced flow. So there are three classes of people who will be affected by this change. Cyber criminals. That's a feature, not a bug. But that does leave two more groups of people. So the smaller the open source project, the more of a problem it is to find some sort of a legal entity who can register an identity and so forth. So you need to have kind of an identity to associate with your nebulous little bit of open source passion project between two mates.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it does affect a subset of that too, is where it's maybe not a small open source project, but it's a group open source project. I forget who it was. There was some tool we all use that had like 10 people who were running it as a collective, and none of them wanted to be the signer. And so they were getting flagged.
Yeah, that can happen. There are now mechanisms around that. Stuff like the Apache Foundation will sign an app for a group of people, and that they will then take on the identity instead of the group of people and stuff like that. So the industry is adapting. So a lot of that stuff is working its out. But the smaller the project, the less chance they are of being adopted by the Linux Foundation or the Apache Foundation, because they're not going to just sign anything. They're going to want some sort of assurance that you're not, a bunch of lads in the basement. And then the third group are people who philosophically object to the very concept of proving who they are to Google. And depending on how you feel, that is either collateral damage, just the same way as the small projects are, or it's just people being difficult and they should get over themselves. I am offering no opinion, but they are the two opinions.
Can both those things be true?
They kind of can, to be honest. Yeah, I think everyone's in a bit of a superposition there. And so that's why you may hear some Sturm und Drang on the internet. But on the whole, this seems very balanced to me. The open source community was terrified this was going to be some sort of Armageddon for open source and Android. And even the most passionately anti-the man podcast I listened to, they were like, actually, that's okay. It's late night Linux. They're a bit NSFW and they're very forthright in their frank opinions. And even those guys were like, yeah, seems reasonable actually. So
I like it. I like it.
Yeah. Okay, we have just a few action alerts. There have been some noteworthy updates from Apple. They are noteworthy because A, they fix a critical bug in Safari, which is a very exposed piece of software. It's on the internet all the time for you. So patch. But it's also special in being the first of a kind. It is the first background security update for iOS, iPadOS, and macOS. And these are a new breed, a take two of an idea we would have talked about in the show 2-ish years ago. There's a nice summary of the backstory linked in the show notes from Tidbits. Thank you, Alison, for sending that to me about 45 minutes ago.
Oh, yeah.
I have popped that in. But so these are background updates. So they're designed to be small and they only do security. They don't do bugs. They only do security. And you will recognize them because they have a lowercase letter in parentheses after the version number. So we're used to seeing 26.3.1. So major version, minor version, patch version. Well, now you have major version, minor version, patch version, background version.
Okay.
And the background versions will only ever appear on the very, very latest minor version. So not 26.3 point anything, but specifically 26.3.1. So if you're on 26.3.0, you can't have the background update as a background update. What you will see is slightly confusing because there are two software updates you're behind. You're behind 26.3.1 and 26.3.1a. But the A gets merged into the version of 26.3.1 that is available for download. So you will see one update, which will have the A in the name. So you can't tell at a glance, am I getting 1 or 2? So this caused me great confusion because my iPad did its background update tickety-boo. I had a notification one morning saying, hey, I patched myself. Hope you had a nice sleep. It's perfect. My phone, on the other hand, had a button for me to push because it was one update, but I'm on 26.3.0. So I have a button to go to 26.3.1 and I get the A as a bonus free extra. But the label has the A. So it looks like my background update isn't working, but it's because I was still one minor version behind.
For shame.
Well, you know the way Apple rolled them out slowly and your phone doesn't check proactively for a week or two? It just hadn't told me, or I would have done it. It just hadn't told
like
me.
That one's been out for a while.
There was no badge. There was no red one, because I can't stand a red one.
Oh, yeah. That's what the OCD is real. Sandy alerted us to this in Slack, in the general Slack, and talked about how it was kind of buried, like you didn't see it under general software update. It was under, privacy and security and background security improvements. And it looked like it was weird that was buried and that you had to go press the button, but this is designed to do itself in the background for you.
Correct. And so by default, the button to automatically do the background updates is on. So unless you got a bit carried away when you upgraded to 26 and you accidentally toggled it off, it should be on, but maybe no harm to check.
Yeah, I did not get automatic updates. Bart and I have talked about this, and we can't quite figure out what was going on, but 2 of my devices, so I have an iPhone, an iPad, and 2 Macs, and one of the Macs and the iPhone said I had to install and restart, even though I was on 26.3.1 on both of them. And the other 2 just went, yeah, I got this. I'll do it in the background for you.
And the really weird thing is 2 of them were Macs with different behaviors to each other.
Right. And unfortunately, we don't know. I let it ride just to see what would happen, to see if it would resolve itself. And unfortunately, on both devices, I ended up having to do a reboot because of some problem during the last week. So when Bart said, "Hey, whatever happened with that?" I was like, "Oh, crud, I messed that up." One of the reasons I put the link, or wanted you to link to the Tidbits article, is that Adam pointed out that they actually did this once before, and it was like 3 years ago, 2023, I think. And there was a problem that the open close parentheses actually caused a flaw that oh gosh, what was it affected? It
was
changed
Safari.
the user agent of
Yeah.
Safari because it had the parentheses in it, and none of the websites knew what to do about it. Let's see.
This has been resolved in an interesting way, actually.
This prevented some websites, notably Facebook and Instagram, from recognizing Safari, causing them to display their mobile versions instead of the desktop versions. The existence of the parentheses.
Yeah, that's just
Okay,
bad
now explain
software,
what happened.
right? That Facebook bug is just bad software written by a company more interested in tracking you than doing a good job. But it happened to a big company, so it was a problem. What Apple have done with the Apple OS 26, all of them, Safari no longer tells you its minor versions because that's a way of tracking you. That's effectively a secret cookie. So the version information is just gone. Therefore, it doesn't matter what they call the version, Safari isn't telling it to the world. So, and what Safari actually did to not break the internet is they froze the Safari version number at the end of the previous OS, and it will never be updated. They have basically said Safari is going to say it is Mac OS 18 point whatever forever.
Well, wait a minute. So Adam put pictures in the in his article, and I'm looking at my own right now. If I do a get info on or whatever about Safari, it says version 26.3.1 parentheses 21623.2.7.111.2. Are you saying that number is never going to change?
No, that you see that because you're looking at the actual software. The headers sent to websites do not contain that information anymore. They used to.
But they did. Okay.
Yes. So they just froze it. Nothing was broken at the end of the last operating system. So Safari's user agent string is forever, never, never, amen, the user agent string as it was at the end of the last, before they
18?
went to 26. Yeah, 18.
Oh, so it's not even saying 26, much less that. I thought you meant those last digits. Oh,
no, they just froze it. And this is why there was a wrong story about a month ago that no one's updating to the Mac. I mean, there's like a 10% upgrade rate. Everyone hates liquid glass. It was because the person who wrote the article was using the headers on the websites, which are intentionally frozen. The data was meaningless.
I wish I'd known that 6 months ago. I mean, a lot of us do hate liquid glass, but
yeah.
But the data, I remember they came out with data that said that nobody was upgrading, and then later data said they were upgrading, but I never heard why the difference was. Oh, that's fascinating.
That was when I discovered the header had changed, when I read the takedown of those news stories. And this is why when I saw these new updates, I went, so that problem from 2 years ago, that can't come back because we've just stopped the headers. Because I very fondly remember Apple announcing the previous attempt at this, and I remember very, very crankily watching it fail.
Because it was a good idea, but...
It was a great idea.
But meta.
Yeah, meta, exactly. But it's back. Yay. So that's good. So patchy, patch. If you are running an older version of any of Apple's operating systems, you should double extra sure to patch, because news broke earlier in the week about a new named vulnerability. Well, it's not a vulnerability, it's an attack chain, and I'll explain why that's important in a moment. It's been called Dark Sword, and this is not easy. This was discovered in use by state-sponsored actors, the Russian government, spying on people they don't like, Ukrainians, and probably other people around the world, but it was found in Ukraine. And what the Russian government had to do to hack not even the current version of iOS. This is iOS 18's and not even the latest iOS 18. What they had to do was find 6 vulnerabilities and chain them together. That is how hard it is to break into iOS. They needed 6 vulnerabilities.
Wow.
And then they kept their exploit as quiet as they could, only using it against high-value targets because it's so hard to make an exploit chain. Because you can't find one bug, you got to find 6 and chain them together. So the chain is important. And that was discovered by security researchers. The cat was out of the bag. Apple released an official warning to people saying, hey, if you're on an old version of iOS 18, patch the latest iOS 18. If you're on iOS or macOS or iOS 26, patch the latest version and you'll be fine. And this actually happened before the A, so you don't have to get to the A. You just have to get to 26.3.1.
Okay.
Or
if you update
18.
to 26.3, if you update to 26.3.1 right now, you get the A, you said, right?
You do, yeah. If you're not yet on 3.1, you are getting the A because it's effectively just been mushed in. It's like
Good.
an afterthought. And this has now become double important because the cat is now very out of the bag. So the official releases didn't actually release the source code. They just warned everyone to update. Unfortunately, the source code has now leaked. So everybody, like the world's smallest cybercrime operator, one cranky person in a basement somewhere can now use this attack. So patch.
Okay.
And finally, there is an up-and-coming plucky upstart sort of a brand called Ubiquiti, who make very advanced routers that have like almost corporate level features for home user prices. And they're really
I feel
beloved.
I feel like this is the router for people who wish they were sysadmins.
Yes. That's
Because all my
exactly
nerd friends are doing it. Like it's all the rage. I looked at it and I said, wow, I don't need to know all that.
The other people it's for is actual sysadmins who don't have the same size of wallet for their house as they do with their work hat on. And they want the same features, but they don't want to open their wallet so wide. And they love Ubiquiti because it's like the light version of the features they love at an affordable price. They're very popular routers. Anyway, they're also very good about actually fixing their software. Well, they have actually fixed a fairly major vulnerability. So if you are one of those Ubiquiti users, patch.
ASAP. All
Yeah.
right.
Now, this worthy warning is aimed at a subset of our audience that I know exists. We have anime fans in the house. We definitely have anime fans in the house. I'm not one of them, but I know they're here. I also know, because I'm married to one, that one of the best places to watch anime outside of Japan is a streaming service called Crunchyroll. And they're a legitimate paid service. They're not a piracy service, which means Crunchyroll have payment data and all sorts of stuff. We do not yet have all the facts, but it looks very probable that they have suffered a substantial data breach through a third-party provider who does their billing for them and or their support. And it looks like there might be some financial details. So for now, I can't tell you how bad this is. I can tell you everyone's investigating. So if you have a Crunchyroll account, please keep an eye on the news. You're nerdy enough to watch anime, so you can watch the news.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
And then we get a little bit of notable news. Only 2 stories, and I've very much put them bad news first, good news second. So the US is banning all future consumer routers not made in the US under the guise of national security. Now, this is a little confusing, and I've seen headlines like, your router is now banned. Well, that physically can't be true, because unless you have a router that isn't yet for sale, in which case, how? It's not banned, right? If you have it, it's not banned. So I'll quote the actual facty facts. Under the new rules, all newly developed consumer-grade routers produced outside the US are ineligible for FCC equipment authorization. So that little FCC logo you have to see, that will be denied to anyone making new routers that don't yet exist. Therefore, they can't be imported legally to the United States. Effectively barring them from the US market is how Cyber Insider put it. However, the restriction applies only to new models, devices already authorized, so not already manufactured, but already authorized, can continue to be sold and used, and consumers are not required to replace existing routers.
Okay, this makes me feel like when I look at Cuba and they're driving cars from 1956, that, okay, it's all fine right now. We have Wi-Fi 7 that's available and everything, but okay, how about when Wi-Fi 8 comes out? Well, no, sorry, the entire United States is on 7.
That is a danger. That is the when I read the headline, my brain went there too. Now, the Cyber Insider piece explicitly says that Netgear are fine. So that's a pretty substantial brand who get to do shiny new products. There's only 2 companies they mention in the Cyber Insider that I saw. I did speed read a bit because I was in a hurry. But they explicitly said TP-Link are in trouble and Netgear should be fine. So that's 2 data points.
Wait. Is that saying that TP-Link and Netgear are manufactured in the United States? Because I don't think they are.
By whatever way these rules work, and whatever it means to be manufactured in the US, because that's a fuzzy term, right? Your supply chains, where companies are registered. So, according to Cyber Insider, Netgear are not affected by this rule that says they won't be allowed to get new products certified. But TP-Link
so the article you linked to
affected.
doesn't refer to TP-Link or Netgear.
Okay, apologies. I read an article that I did read. It may not have made it into the show notes. I apologize for that because I usually try to link the ones that tell me new things.
Yeah.
I know I read that.
Okay. I checked with 2 different AIs to cross-reference to find out whether there were any routers that are manufactured in the United States. And one of them said, yeah, technically, if you look at Starlink Wi-Fi routers, which you have to have a Starlink antenna and all that to use that they are, but there's nobody else. And they agreed.
The word doesn't say, the word is produced, which is even fuzzier, not manufactured. I don't believe this is something an LLM can help with because this is the minute fine print of regulations. So I would say,
well, it's not a regulation either, right? It's a statement.
Well, no, it is. It is a regulation, which is why they could just do this on a whim. So regulation is done by fiat by the executive branch. Legislation comes through lawmakers. Legislation is hard, and if you get a bill passed, it takes work to unpass it. Regulations you can just do like that. You just sign them.
Okay. So this can also be a whim that can be overturned when big router companies go, squeeze me?
Or when small businesses complain to their Chamber of Commerce, who complain to their Congress creator, who complain to the political appointees in the FCC, who hear cranky business people and take note.
Yeah. Maybe just the big ones, though. I don't think the little ones have any kind of voice.
But this is why chambers of commerces have voice, because individually none of them do. Okay. But chambers of commerce are very important. They're major participants in the political discourse.
Okay.
But anyway, remember, this is a rule signed by the chairman of the FCC promising that in future they will deny authorization. That's weak sauce. A promise to deny authorization in the future. We shall see.
Okay. All right. I was wondering, Bart was trying to get me down off the ledge this morning when we were texting, and I actually wrote and then erased because I knew it was not who you are. but I almost wrote, is it because of the chair you're sitting in, what country you're in, that you're not as alarmed as I am? And then I went, no, that's not Bart. But still, come on, this is a mess.
Idea. It's a silly idea. I'm just not convinced anything's going to come of it because words are cheap. Actions are more difficult.
So one interesting thing is the good news is they said, hey, we're going to let you have security updates through March of 2027, though.
Yeah, which tells me there's nothing happening in the near term.
Yeah. Okay.
We shall see. Okay, with all of that out of the way, let's talk about some good news. So there is value in all sorts of VPNs, even limited VPNs that only protect the traffic belonging to one single app, like, say, the VPN built into Firefox, which has, up until now, been a pro feature that you paid for. And so that means that every single thing you do in Firefox is done through a VPN. So regardless of whether or not it's HTTP or HTTPS, it gets encrypted. So that takes care of. And it gets routed through an anonymization system. So every single thing you do in Firefox is not associated with your IP. So that is valuable. Now, that doesn't mean that what's going on in your mail client, your chat client, your Slack client, and everything else on your computer is not still going out through your IP address. So understand that a Firefox VPN only protects Firefox. But that's still worth having. Still a good thing. And you can now have 50 gigabytes of it. That's a lot of web browsing.
Oh.
50 gigabytes of it per month for free until you have to start paying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that is currently rolling out in 4 countries. And if that works well, they're going to expand that to more. And I am not on the list of lucky countries. However, quite a few No Silicastaways will be. United States, United Kingdom, France, Germany.
Okay.
So
that's pretty cool.
It is very cool. I have no top tips, but I do want to call out an excellent explainer, a podcast for people to listen to. We talk about CVS and CVE and all of these it's CVSS and CVE. Typo in show notes there.
Okay.
Yeah, CVSS and CVE. They're the 2 acronyms, and I managed to butcher them and just get them all next. Right. These are how we classify vulnerabilities. There's a couple of questions we No Silicastaways might have. What's the problem to be solved? Like, why exactly are we doing all this work? Who does all this work? Who decides that bug in Safari is CVE 2026-03241568, whatever the heck it is? Who does that? Why did they do that? Why do we care? Why does anyone care? What does it mean? All valid questions and all tackled very well on the Compiler podcast. The episode is Keeping Track of Vulnerabilities with CVEs. It does exactly what it says in the tin.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. Also, 2 interesting insights. So these are just optional bits of reading if you want to learn a little bit more. So I have known for a long time that Apple have really secure hardware in the form of the secure enclave. This is a piece of hardware that generates private keys and never lets them out of the hardware, which is how Face ID is so secure. Like, the secure enclave is at the heart of public-private cryptography on Apple's devices, and it makes them hardware secure. Amazing feature. Did you know Apple went further, and they also have security exclaves? So not enclaves, exclaves. And these provide hardware security for parts of your screen. So on an iPhone, there is no physical button to say that your mic is on or your camera is on. We just take it as a given that when that little light comes on, it means something. And more importantly, if the light doesn't come on our screen, we assume it means the mic is not on. Well, turns out we can know that with very high confidence because of the security exclave. Those pixels on the screen are not controlled by the normal operating system. They're controlled by a dedicated operating system in the secure exclave, which can't be messed with even if you get root access. So that software pixel is approximately as secure as a hardware LED, even though we see it in software on our screen.
So my understanding was that this was specifically done on the MacBook Neo, it's not using the exclave on other MacBooks.
That's not true. Oh, okay, sorry. That is technically true, but there's a yes and. So on other MacBooks, that is true, because other MacBooks have hardware line.
Which is what I said.
Correct. However, the reason it's come to the Neo is because the Neo is an iPhone. The Neo is an iPhone with a big screen and a keyboard. And the exclave has existed on the iPhone and the iPad for years because they've never had a hardware light. So it's not new technology, but it's become newly relevant because some people lost their ever-loving mind about the fact that they'd skimped on the LED on the Neo.
Right. On the hardware LED.
Which got people to actually look into how this works. And then people found the white paper describing the secure exclave and the fact that it's been on our iPhones for ages and ages and ages. And then everyone went, hang on a second. We've had software-based indicators on our iPhones for years and we haven't lost our ever-loving mind. Why are we losing our ever-loving mind about the Neo? And then sanity reigned.
You did say approximately as secure. It's
approximately.
It's not quite, but pretty amazing.
Close. Yeah, if you read the technical stuff, it's very cool.
The more I learn about the MacBook Neo, it's just fascinating.
What a machine.
I didn't see the video myself, but they were talking about it on the Accidental Tech podcast, that when iFixit did the breakdown of the MacBook Neo, they were trying to look at why does this weigh the same amount as a MacBook, but it's got a lot less battery. So how did that work? And it turns out the trackpad, the mechanical trackpad, weighs like twice as much as the non-mechanical trackpad. And it's like 7 ounces of the weight of the MacBook Neo is just that mechanical trackpad, which is fascinating.
Yeah. It's an amazing little machine. And the PC industry is in a panic because they didn't see it coming and they do not have an answer.
Well, they have crappier ones.
That's the problem.
You can't get a worse device.
For the same price. Why would you? Okay, so that's one interesting insight. And I really learned a lot. I was fascinated by that. And then another way shorter read, but I just love the guys in Tidbits. I'm a pro member these days, which means I get even more articles. I am so happy I finally did that. A, the ads are gone, back to our previous point. And B, I get more tidbits. This is great. So a free plug there, Adam. But anyway, because Apple changed the MacBook Neo they're now making more, they had to change their documentation about the secure exclave. And that's why, I think it was Adam, it was one of the writers in Tidbits, was reading the platform security guide. And while they were there, they decided to do a diff to the previous version. And they just picked up all the changes. And if you want to see everything that Apple has been either more open about or more secure about, the summary is linked in the show notes.
Perfect.
I have one palate cleanser, a quickie from me. The No Silicastaways contain many people with physical differences. And Alison, you have talked a lot about overcoming physical differences. And this story from 20,000 Hertz just pulled my heartstrings and my Alison will love this bell. And I think the No Silicastaways will too. It's a first-person story. They have a feature where listeners can submit stories once a year. It's a first-person story about someone whose grandfather got a cochlear implant after 35 years of profound deafness so he could hear his grandkids sing.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Adding
feels.
that now. Adding episode. So what Bart's obliquely referring to is my granddaughter has a cochlear implant. So this is definitely something to listen to. One of the things Lindsay and I have been trying to arrange is an interview between me, her, and Sienna's surgeon.
Oh.
Or maybe not her surgeon, but her audiologist to talk about how it works.
That.
And I would too. And we keep almost doing it. And she actually talked to him about it. He goes, oh yeah, that sounds fun. I'm bad at arranging things. So All right. Well, hey, Bart, this has been great. I really appreciate you accelerating and getting it done early for us so I can go off on my little trip. And what should we do in the next week and a half till we hear from you again?
Regardless of what else happens between now and Saturday, stay patched so you stay secure. That was a great setup. Thank you. Couldn't fumble that one.
Bart doesn't know I left it in. I couldn't help myself. Well, anyway, that's going to wind us up for this week. Did you know you can email me at allison@podfeet.com anytime you like? And if you have a question or suggestion, just send it on over. Remember, everything good starts with podfeet.com. You can follow me on Mastodon at podfeet.com/Mastodon. If you want to listen to the podcast on YouTube, you can go to podfeet.com/YouTube. If you want to join the conversation, you can join our Slack community at podfeet.com/Slack. Not only can you talk to me and all the other lovely No Silicastaways, join the Security Bits channel, and that way you can participate in this thing we're going to do on understanding what the nutrition labels mean from Bart's perspective on the different applications in the App Store. You can support the show at podfeet.com/Patreon like John does, or with a one-time donation at podfeet.com/donate, or if you like PayPal, we have that too, podfeet.com/PayPal. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, you are going to have to wait until April 5th to head on over to podfeet.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time to join the friendly and enthusiastic No Silicastaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed.